Hello, everyone. My name is Christine Reiner. I am a communications coordinator contractor with the South Dakota Specialty Producers. I want to thank you for joining our event with Denise and Lauren. Denise of Venner Farms and Lauren of Boathouse Restaurant.
Boathouse Barn Grill. Yep.
Boathouse Bar and Grill. I'm really excited to chat with both of you today. I can't wait to learn more about you and your processes, but I think before I get too far into this segment is funded by our partnership with the Natural Resource Conservation Service, NRCS, and the South Dakota Specialty Producers to promote sustainable agricultural practices and environmental stewardship. So I want to thank you both for being here today and taking the time out to kind of chat with us and tell us about what you do. So we'll kind of do, whoever wants to go first, but can you tell me who you are and what you do?
Denise, this is your show. I'm
yeah.
just participating.
Okay.
So please,
Denise
please.
Venner. My husband Mark and I live at Venner Farm, north of Pierre, about 15 miles. And this is a small organic grain farm with a side vegetable production. And we've been here for quite a few years. This is where Mark grew up. We like what we do, but sometimes it's a challenge to be an organic grain farmer in South Dakota. We put up a high tunnel about 10 years ago. And so that's what started the vegetable production, which is how I got involved with South Dakota Specialty Producers and specialty cropping. And we grow vegetables and herbs, not even on a large scale compared to a lot of other people, but we do what we can. And we love working to promote local foods and with schools and local restaurants if they're interested in that kind of thing.
Awesome. And such important work.
Yeah.
All right, Lauren.
It's a village.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Lauren Forsch. I own and operate a restaurant at Spring Creek recreational area called the Boathouse Barn Grill at Spring Creek. We lease the property from the state of South Dakota because it's actually in the park in a deep water marina. It's a seasonal restaurant. We are open. We start at the beginning of May. We're open through the end of September. So just 5 months during the year, the busiest 5 months that the recreational area has. And then outside of that, I live in Sioux Falls. So when I'm doing the restaurant, I'm here full time in Pierre. And then outside of that, I live in Sioux Falls and travel and try and get other wonderful, great ideas for the restaurant and all the things we can offer our patrons. So I've if you haven't made the connection, Denise and I met or coordinated working at providing produce for the restaurant, and it's been a wonderful relationship. We signed the contract with the state last summer. Was our first summer, so this is our second season out there at Spring Creek, and it's been a wonderful time.
That now I just learned that you're commuting, long-term commuting, so that is from Sioux Falls to here. That's I guess location wise for a marina, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, well, we have a home out here in Pierre at Spring Creek. So my parents built a house maybe 12 years ago or so out here. So when the opportunity came up to lease this space from this restaurant space from the state, it really felt like a coming home. I mean, I grew up with my family out here in Pierre. We would spend 40 weekends a year out here. So it did feel like more of a coming home. And one of our other business partners, Jordan Taylor, who I'm sure some of the other specialty producers would recognize, he owns several restaurants in the Sioux Falls area. He's one of our other partners for the restaurant. So he will come up a few times a few times a month, maybe spend about a week out here a month. He actually does the commuting. I stay put. So I don't spend a lot of time going back and forth. There's not much time to spend a lot of time going back and
Yeah.
forth to Sioux Falls during the season. But it is, yeah, I love being here. And the only regret I have is that our season doesn't go a little bit longer because, in my opinion, the produce just gets better and better
Right.
come right when it's ramping up
Mhm.
in September. We're shutting our doors. So, as far as using farm to table, as far as using fresh produce, seasonal produce, the dishes just get better as the season goes on.
Mhm. I
Mhm.
I you know, I have a few friends who run food trucks, and they do the same thing, farm to table, food fresh. And so do you have to kind of curate your menu to around, say, what Denise has? And how does that work out for both of you?
I would say it's a balance of both. I mean, it was Jordan who um, reached out. I think it was maybe through the specialty producers. He checked with both the specialty producers and then also through Dakota Rural Action to connect us
Mm.
to farmers in the area. And I believe that it was Jordan that reached out to Denise and
That's
Mark
right. Yeah.
initially. And we sat down at Venner Farm and said, these are the things that we're looking at putting on the menu. And then also, what are the things that you're currently growing or that you're looking to grow? And it was that conversation happened maybe in February of
Yeah. A year
March of
ago,
20.
February. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, it was really important for us before we even decided to take the lease with the state, is knowing that we could get local produce to use in our menu and incorporate. But we have a set menu that we have or try to have every day of the week that we're open. But then where I love to, as a chef, incorporate um, the seasonal produce to maximize it is in our featured menu items that change or rotate. We just do it once that week um, as a special until it runs out, which is
Mhm.
usually based on how much we receive.
Mhm.
Um, and it's been wonderful. And I feel like it's fun to highlight what Denise is doing in her high tunnel. And um, it's like I said, it just gets better and better throughout the season.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's great. Yeah, Denise, let's kind of tell me about your high tunnel. Can I know your journey?
Hmm. Well, we were fortunate to receive a grant through NRCS 10 years ago to put a high tunnel up. And at the time, not knowing that much about it, except that we would like to extend our growing season. And I was participating like in the farmers market more than trying to do something directly off the farm here. Um, if I had it to do over again, I would choose to have maybe 2 or 3 smaller ones rather than one large one, because we try to grow everything that we want to in there, except for squash, pumpkins, watermelon, potatoes. Those kind of things still just need to be grown out in the open. But as far as greens and cucumbers and peas and green beans and tomatoes and that kind of thing, we like growing that inside. But if I could choose, I would have several smaller ones so that I could rotate the crops through that way. It's okay, and we've adapted to it, but as anybody that has a high tunnel would tell you, there is high tunnel fatigue too. So that's a whole nother journey we could take a little side trip down on to talk about fertility issues and that kind of thing in a high tunnel. It's not like the magic bullet for growing in South Dakota in colder climate with a shorter growing season, but it's still helpful and it's fun and we do enjoy it, and it does protect us from elements, sometimes like hail and wind that would damage somebody else's garden. So we're very fortunate there. I will tell you, talk about side stories. The first year we had that up, the first season was the fall of 2013, and there was that terrible winter storm that killed all the cattle out west. We had like 70, 80, 90 mile an hour winds, and it ripped the plastic on the high tunnel to shreds. We hadn't even had it up 2 months. So that was our first hit, and okay, now it's another big financial chunk to get a top on it again. So that didn't happen till the next year. So it's kind of a struggle to begin with. But we also have gotten to the point where we use a different plastic, put a shade cloth on it to kind of, it helps protect it and reinforce it a little bit. And we put solid ends on it. So that's one picture there just to kind of show you inside. Because of some health issues in recent years, I've gone to trying to have a few more raised beds, and then I need to hire extra help to get crops planted in the ground. I do not participate in the farmers market in town anymore. I'm in the midst of trying to get a farm stand going at the farm. And so just like Lauren at a marina, she's just about 5 miles north of here on the Oahe Reservoir. We also are on the reservoir, which you can kind of see in the background here behind me. And because we live in this situation, there's a boat ramp on our road as well, Peoria Flats Boat Landing. So we do get some boat traffic, even though at one time my husband would tell you that when you left the highway 4 miles away, you drove straight across the prairie to their farm. This is a little community out here now. There are 23 mailboxes at the corner where we all pick our mail up now. There are more homes being built out here as the people who own this farmland age and sell off their land. There are these little developments, homes here and there. So to me, sort of a bucket list thing is I've always wanted to have just a little farm stand at home and be out there and manage that while I'm working in my garden and have people stop by and buy vegetables. So we're about there. Anyway, we have these fun opportunities though, like Lauren and Jordan approaching us about possibly supplying the restaurant with some produce and some herbs. And that has been delightful. We're enjoying that. I feel really blessed that in situations like that, and also I may talk about in a minute about opportunities with some of the farm to school activities in the Pierre area, where people have approached me and say, would you want to collaborate on this? Would you like to participate in this? And that's what happened with the Boys and Girls Club. And Lauren was the one that approached me on that. And I said, well, yes, this is on the way to your restaurant. Let's stop at the farm. And that's what we did. So maybe she can elaborate a little bit more on that, how that came to be for her.
Yeah, there are definitely those opportunities that come up, but I think the biggest thing, especially with this, with the Boys and Girls Club, Rhea reached out with the Boys and Girls Club and asked for the restaurant to participate in what she was calling Food Week for their summer camp or summer series. And I think part of it is just trying to think about how to make it the right event, the right situation, the right scenario for things to come together. So, for example, having 100 kids, which was the total, it was 120 originally that she approached me, having 100 kids ages 4 through 12, I think was the oldest, 5 through 12, out at the restaurant. I mean, my original answer was just no.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, yes, but no. And so the more we talked about it, I said, can we break the kids up? It's Food Week. So can it be can it be a series of things? Can we do different groups? And then when she talked about having this older group of kids that was maybe aged 9 through 12, then the light bulb went off. And I just said, oh my gosh, what a pivotal age for these kids to understand, to actually, like, that is truly where I started becoming self-sufficient in the kitchen. I had 2 working parents, and they were teaching us how to make these simple meals, dishes, fend for ourselves in some instances, especially during the summer, but then also like put this chicken and rice dish in the oven. Well, we're on our way home from work. So I really wanted to be able to provide these students or these kids with some life skills that, okay, I want you to be able to make yourself a salad. I want you to be able to make an egg. And then every kid needs to know how to make either a quesadilla or grilled cheese. And so those are the things that we focused on with what ended up being 40 kids of this older age group. But the other element of that was just making sure that we could connect them to where their food comes from. And that was such an awesome experience. And so here I am thinking, okay, they're busing these kids out from Pier to the restaurant, which is probably about a 20-minute bus ride. I said, the farm's on the way. Like, I'm calling Denise. we're gonna bring the kids to the farm so they can see where these greens are coming from, so they can see the wheat for their tortillas. With some of the younger kids, we made homemade tortillas for the quesadillas. So just really making that connection. And I have to say, I mean, we've been having some of our customers who have some of these kids coming in the past few weeks. It's been fun to see that, where they've said how wonderful, how fun, how impactful. My favorite part was picking the greens, or my favorite part was um, seeing the chickens, or doing the chicken chores. And so for them to be able to really make that connection and then try different foods. We added tons of veggies to some of the kids tried omelets or made omelets, and they had kind of a fancy homemade vinaigrette salad where they washed the greens themselves. Just for them to be able to get their hands into it and try something new and make that connection was so much fun. So much fun.
The real question, are they cooking for their parents now?
Well, I have had some, well, actually, the only comments I've gotten is, I've told that I make my grilled cheese wrong because I don't put cheese on both sides of the bread, which I said was my secret. I said, you got to put cheese on both sides for it to be good. You got to butter both sides of the bread. So it's been great. And my cousin's daughter, which I didn't even know, she was in Boys and Girls Club, which is terrible. My cousin's daughter came out to the farm. Stella, she had a wonderful time. And Jordan did say that she and breakfast is huge in our family. So he was pretty proud that she made eggs the next day for him.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a great opportunity, but I think the biggest takeaway is probably you just have to figure out some of those things that come your way. You have to figure out how to make them your own or make them work. I mean, if we would have came to Denise and said, this is our entire menu, I need you to grow every single one of these ingredients in these quantities, it can't work that way. I mean, there's always the ideal, but it doesn't. But we didn't take that as, no, we're not going to do this. We took it as, okay, this is what can happen. This is how we can supplement every once in a while. And Denise, you'll have to tell me if it's your neighbor or there's someone else that sometimes supply some of the cilantro or things that we get.
Yeah.
So it's not always a no, a yes or no, but maybe how can we make it our own, or how can we adjust the plan?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very community based. It seems that, you can go from this contact connected us, but now we're actually creating and cultivating something that's important for next generations. And, food security. I mean, when we teach children how our food is produced, that's going to keep that knowledge going and keep that interest peaked, and it's so much more fun to go and pick your cilantro, get your onions from the garden, and then clean them, wash them up, cut them up, and it, you know, it tastes better.
Mhm.
It tastes 100% better. And so I'm in Sioux Falls. I want to come out and hang out with you guys because it just sounds like
Come
such
on.
a fun time. So do you host quite a few events together, or do you mainly just do the Boys and Girls Club right now?
Well, that was a first. That was a
Mhm.
first, but I could see now that we have one under our belt, I could see that happening again.
This
Yeah,
was very
absolutely.
recent. Yeah, this was
Oh,
May.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and first time, you know. Um, I- no, I mean, I don't advertise that we will host events here, but it just kind of happens and we're open to that.
Mhm.
We don't have this all just to keep it to ourselves. We like to share, and we really do have a heart, just like Lauren said, for helping educate young people. The delight on some of their eyes, because we intentionally, because I knew this was coming and we had a couple months to work on it. There are some things you can grow that grow quickly. And we love to repurpose things around here. So we had, for a raised bed outside, we had I didn't take a picture of that, I should have, or I may have one somewhere, but an old feed trough, and we filled that with dirt and potting soil, and amended it, made it really great, and planted rows of stuff in there in preparation for this. And the delight on some of their eyes when they pulled up an onion or a beet or a radish, it was great. And then they took them to the restaurant, and that
Yeah.
were some of the vegetables that they got to chop up and add to the salad. That was wonderful. Yeah. So and when Lauren was giving them a little, when they arrived and they got off the bus, and she was giving them a little intro and some parameters for the time we were going to be there, when she said the word chickens, there was a big oh. I thought, well, you'd think they just arrived at the Cincinnati Zoo or something, and all we've got's like 30 chickens, but it was cool. It was just a neat experience. So yeah, we would do that again for
Do you
sure.
want to do you want to quickly explain the just stations that we had or that you guys hosted or set up?
Sure.
Because
Yeah,
I loved how
Lauren
you
came out. Yeah, yeah. Lauren came the week ahead, and we kind of walked around a little bit, like, okay, how many people do I have available that could actually take a group of 8, 10 people, which it wasn't just students. There was very well staffed with quite a few adults too that were with the groups. And yeah, and so Lauren we narrowed it down to 3 little areas that they had. One being that my husband Mark walked across the road right from where we were basing our experience, but there's a wheat field growing right there. So they walked across the road, and he told them a little bit about growing that. Then in our little farm stand building, we had a grinder set up with the wheat berries, so the harvested wheat, and with a flour mill and flour. And the kids were all about digging their hands in that bowl of flour, and in the and loaves of bread and cereal and Wheaties and whatnot sitting there, so they could see products that come from that. So that was one area. Then we had another one where they actually did go look in the nest by the chicken coop and gather eggs. And they went on to another little area where we had potatoes planted and onions planted, and they could plant some onion bulbs in the ground. And then the other one was mostly the high tunnel, was doing a walk through there, which was very hot at that time of the day. Even though it was morning, the sun was shining, it was really hot in there. Just to see what we had growing in there, and did a little plant identification. Quite a few of the kids knew that anything that looked like it had big leaves on it, which in there was cucumbers. Everyone thought that was pumpkins, which great. That meant some of them actually knew something about how vegetables grow. And then we walked out, and they could pick something out of one of the raised beds there. There were little carrots just starting that were maybe only an inch long and not even as thick as a pencil yet, and wash them off and eat them. Even as tiny as they were, they still tasted like a carrot. That was pretty cool. And then we went outside to this repurposed trough that had a bunch of things growing in it, and they got to pick some things. Everybody got to pick a couple things to throw in the basket to take to the restaurant.
I'm sad I missed it. I wish I could have just tagged along. It sounds like such a fun event, and like
Well, and it had to happen quickly, right, Lauren? You were on a time schedule. They arrived and within the hour they were back on the bus, and heading on to the restaurant.
Mhm. It did happen so quick.
Happened fast, yeah.
And 40 children. I've taught kids before, art. I know, like, when there's stuff around them that excites them, they just woo.
Yeah.
So to manage that and to keep it all in line, that's an
Mhm.
incredible job.
It was great. They all had their own water bottle with them. They all had water, and fortunately there wasn't any huge need for a bathroom. We do have a porta potty, but they probably wouldn't have liked that. So I don't know what happened when you got to the restaurant, Lauren, if
We did a bathroom break before we
Good.
started, but it was fine because everyone needed to wash their hands before they could
Sure.
start preparing the food. So it
Sure.
worked great.
Good.
And then the next few days, I mean, we still continued uh the younger kids didn't have the time to go, nor probably the attention span, to go out to the farm. So the first group of kids, so we split it up and did a couple different days. So my second group, there were 35 kids in that group, but they were age maybe kind of 7 and 8. And those kids washed the greens that were actually our greens order for that week. So they washed all of our mixed greens, all of our arugula. And then I had some carrots from my garden that were baby carrots that everyone got to wash these carrots. And then they had a carrot and homemade ranch dressing snack. And then the next day, the kids were even younger. I think that it was another 35 kids that were 5 and 6, or maybe 6 and 7, 5 through 7, something like that. And uh, the very first group had made some homemade tortillas and made extra dough that we used for those kids. So they pattied up. It's very similar to Play-Doh, pattied up homemade tortillas, and we fried those on the flat top. But then they got to compare a store-bought tortilla, a little piece of store-bought tortilla, to the ones that they made homemade, and just taste the flavor difference. And that was their snack. But both of those groups the next day, um, Denise had provided some seeds, some vegetable seeds that they got to plant and take home with them. We planted them in kind of the reusable or replantable pots that they could just take home and put in the ground or put into a container. Since they had learned about container planting, put them into a container in their own place. Which some of those ended up at the Boys and Girls Club too, so they have those growing now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, it's just so innovative. There's no waste and everybody gets to learn a little section of the process because it is a process, right?
That's right.
And like, I'm like, is there a Boys and Girls Garden Club in the future? Maybe.
Well, and it was great because um, the Boys and Girls Club has containers that they planted a handful of vegetables. So some of the recall, I think that being able to almost have the conversation be full circle. It's not just this isolated, you've got a planter at your organization's club, but this is also a profession. People, if you like this, people do this. You can be a farmer. If you like the food side of it, this is a profession. I think that if I would have been introduced to other chefs or people who made careers out of food earlier in my life, I think that I would have been more inclined to go that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I so much of that is the influence of people around you um, and just what you know or to understand as being possible. So I did make the comment afterwards. It's like, we're really, if we can even inspire one person, one child to have a better understanding, or one person to know that they have these people in their lives, that if they ever had questions, or I know Denise has some young gals that work for her, that help her, that I'm like, oh, they would be amazing budding entrepreneurial farmers. If they decide that they want to go that direction, they know that they'd have a lot of support. So I think that's what it is for me. That, and I know Denise, we've had these conversations. It's very similar, as she's mentioned, just inspiring kids.
It just takes one person. That's what I always say. Just one person, one experience, one little taste of something, and to cultivate that and make it a profession. They do need that support and that inspiration. And how lucky are these kids that they got to spend days with both of you at what you do best. So I think it's very cool.
It is helpful. I think before we went on, Christine, we were having the little chat, and you were commenting on our background, and I said, because we work here, we don't always pay attention to how beautiful it is here. We kind of get caught up in the work, and when we see home, and our home, it's work. So, but when someone else comes here, and just like, and maybe it's like this a little bit for you too, Lauren, and have somebody appreciate what you're doing, that makes you feel like, oh, I can keep going then. It isn't just a chore. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. I do something that's kind of important. I'm not just feeding myself, but other people are being touched by it in some way too. So yes, and we definitely need the young people to get more involved, for sure, and more engaged in this.
I would love to come out and help you with your farm stand. Let me know when it's opening.
Okay.
How big is your location, Denise?
We have 550 tillable acres, but the predominating thing here on our farm is the grain. We grow small grains, but it's organic. One of our challenges is marketing in South Dakota. Talk about the need for young entrepreneurs to come along and do some facet of any of this business. Is we really don't have the infrastructure in South Dakota for supporting organic grain farmers. So we do some things on a small scale. Most of it is trucked out of state to other bigger mills and bigger businesses that want your organic grains, which could be, it's anything from flax to several kinds of wheat, barley, millet, those kind of things. To smaller portions, which are still large on the consumer scale for the general household, is like Bredico Sourdough Bakery in Sioux Falls buys our wheat to make their bread, and we sell grains in bulk to again, I'm losing the name right now, Breadroot in Rapid City, the food co-op there. And there are local people that actually do buy grain, 60-pound bags of grain from us for their home baking, and that kind of thing. And then on the vegetable side, of course, that's different. We are not a market garden where we grow acres and acres of cantaloupe or pumpkins or something. It's much smaller scale than that. So yes, we have that many tillable acres. That sounds like a lot. That's not all vegetables. That is mostly grains.
That's still, you need people, you need the time, and of course the environment kind of reminds you that it's in control sometimes.
That's exactly right. We're loving it. We've had some rains recently and kind of knocking the grasshoppers down. The last 2 or 3 years have been awful with grasshoppers. So
that's tough, especially organic. I wanted to mention that we are creating an organic group. It's very new, and the South Dakota Specialty Producers is kind of fostering it, but we're not sure what it's going to grow into. So maybe, we'll connect after this and we can share the details about that. But if anybody else is interested and they want to be a part of those chats or that discussion, we post on our Facebook page about the organic group quite a bit. So far, we're just meeting monthly. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, please reach out to us because we would love to get as much input and participation as we can in that. Like you said, Denise, we need more infrastructure, more help in that department. Organic is it's so important and so great for the environment that we just need to keep supporting that. So thank you for what you do because it's not easy. Thank you both for what you do. It's been a pleasure to learn more about you. You know, this is our first time interacting and I feel like I just made two really great acquaintances. But I want to be courteous of your time. And so do either of you have any special events coming up for the rest of the summer that you would like to share or farm stand plans?
I'm just going to mention real quick because I don't, Denise would never toot her own horn, but one of the Boys and Girls Club board members contacted the Rapid City Journal when they found out. It's like they didn't even realize this was happening. And then they found out what their coordinator had reached out with us. And so someone from the Rapid City Journal, or not the Rapid City Journal, the Capital Journal, excuse me, the paper here in Pierre, the Capital Journal covered the Boys and Girls Club event, but he was so interested in what Denise and Mark were doing that after the Boys and Girls Club event, he came back and did a longer interview with them that both the article about the Boys and Girls Club and then a wonderful long article about what Venner Farm is doing in the area were both in the paper, in the journal. And so the other thing I was just going to mention to anyone else that ends up doing events like this is there are opportunities to reach out to your media, local reporters, local news stations, and just say these things are happening or they're going to be happening. If you'd like to participate, you can come along and just let them have their own journey with it and see what can come out of it, because it was never the intention, but in the end I'm so glad that they were able to cover it, because just to have that happen, I think was great exposure for the work that Denise and Mark are doing that they never asked for.
Correct. Yeah, that was a great side note.
Are you getting famous, Denise?
I don't know. I've had a number of people say or text me or, a comment. I see them in town. So that was a great article in the paper. I didn't know you did all that. And I'm like, oh gosh, people, we've been there.
Where have you been?
Start practicing your autograph, to send your little grain bags.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, as far as us, Facebook is the easiest place to connect with us and see future events. I mean, we are barely hanging on by our fingernails through the end of July. So then when it comes to August and September, we start doing some really, really fun things. Last year we did an Oktoberfest. This year we have planned to do a harvest dinner sometime late August, early September, depending on the harvest. And so that would be just the best place to follow us if you're in the area or plan on coming out. You can look what our special events are that we have upcoming.
Right. We don't have anything intentionally planned right now. We had done something in May with the high school culinary class. Again, that was just something that kind of fell into our laps, which was great. It was a very small class, only 4 students came and with the teacher, and they spent several hours, and that was a great experience too. And I can see that going forward. I'm also involved with the Farm to School program too, through working with SPA and Dakota Rural Action and SDSU. So I am not a person that's going to go try to supply the whole salad bar setting for the high school, But to do these things on a small scale, like with a Wahi Child Development or the culinary class or the Boys and Girls Club again or something is great. We do have other things coming up, but I haven't said this to Lauren. I'll announce it now, and then maybe something can come of it someday. But maybe she and Jordan would like to come and we can do a farm to table event or something right here at the farm. That could be a fundraiser for one of these entities or something. We've talked about trying to do something like that before, but I would not invite people to come and have an experience at the farm if you had to swat grasshoppers during your whole meal. So the last couple of years wouldn't have worked, but anyway, yeah.
Well, maybe something can come up fruition then,
Yeah.
that's very exciting and
Look how
I mean,
these are how these things happen. Just
That's right.
conversation.
Yeah. And there are other vendors in the area too, which, Lauren has reached out and we have supplied just a small bit of what she uses, last year we never had any tomatoes. So she never got those big slices of tomato to put on her hamburgers without going somewhere else. And with beef, and they make a lot of their own sausage and that kind of thing when they do their Oktoberfest. And so it's a good collaboration of a lot of people in the area, and you have to kind of keep networking.
Yeah, and that has been great. We've found a lot of our producers from other producers, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the lifeline,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say right now, my job is to plan educational activities and help share, what producers like yourselves and talented chefs like what you're doing in our state, and to help share that. And Denise's contact information just got passed to me in an email. I mean, this is like the first time I'm seeing her face to face. But we've chatted and I think we've got some future events coming up where you can actually understand and see her farm. So watch our page for that. But I'm thankful because Denise, you've been helping me out. You were the perfect producer I was looking for these upcoming things. So it's really about who you know or who knows you, and how open you are to those opportunities, because you never know what they're going to turn into.
That's correct. Yeah.
But I guess this has been such a great talk today, and I want to thank you, Denise and Lauren, for being with me. We all appreciate your time and knowledge on farm to table and the processes that takes, just kind of what you have to prepare and plan for, and what might not go right. I'm sure there were many trials along the way, but you both are so just positive. It seems like you can kind of roll with the punches. So I want to thank you so much for that. If you would like to contact our guests after the segment, we will leave their contact information and websites in the comments so that you can continue to follow them, go follow their social media, see what they kind of come up with, because some of these events I really want to go to. I'd take a day trip up to Pier and check all this out. So you can find their contact information in the comments. And then if you have any questions or want to reach out to them, you can always message our page or find theirs. But I want to thank everybody for watching and taking the time and learning more about these great, hardworking women. And again, this segment has been funded by our partnership with NRCS and the South Dakota Specialty Producers to promote sustainable agriculture and practices in our state. Again, my name is Christine Reiner. I'm the communications coordinator for SPA. And if you are interested in any upcoming events, we post them on our Facebook page as well as our website, sdspecialtyproducers.org. There's a lot of events. There's a lot of people doing a lot of stuff, and it's really exciting. So watch our page, check our website. And if you ever have questions, we love talking to you. So thank you both again, and I can't wait to talk to you in the future.
All right. Same here, Christine. Thank you.
Much.
Yeah, bye.